endless skies. Oh, I'm living that nomad life, city to city, feeling alive. From mountain tops to ocean drives, unchained, I thrive, I thrive.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Nomads 50 Plus. My name is Chris Kalaboukis, and it's my mission to interview 1,000 digital nomads. That's right, folks, 1,000 digital nomads to talk about how they leapt into the life and how it's not scary, right? Isn't that right, Chris? It is not scary. I want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Chris Englert. I have a whole sphere of eat, walk, learn. I talk about my nomad life and live a nomad life and love my nomad life. So it's not scary. The scariest part, I think, of becoming a nomad is selling the first big, or getting rid of or selling the first big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have all these plans, you decide you're going to become a nomad, you make a plan, then you start either selling or giving away your stuff, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what your plan is. And for me, I didn't really think I was a nomad until one of my favorite pieces of art went away in somebody else's car. Like,
oh yeah, that's the moment it hits you, right?
Yeah. And this piece of art was really significant for me because it was a piece of art from an artist who represented I got involved in environmental development battles. And so it's a really, really long story, but I ended up getting involved in this battle where my colleagues and I ended up getting a 5,000 acre park created in Florida.
Wow.
And the
cool.
piece of art was a color sketch of that park that I got created.
Nice.
So not only was it a favorite piece of art, but it also represented a really big piece of my life that all of a sudden was going away. And that was kind of scary.
That's a huge
that was
chunk.
Kind of scary.
It's like a huge chunk of your history just disappearing like that. That's crazy. That's crazy.
So I take a picture of it.
But you remember in your heart. You remember in your heart.
Exactly. So as nomads, you don't have your things anymore. It's not like you can look at something and have the memory, right? Unless you have taken a picture of it and you go through your digital photographic library, you don't have any memories of things being generated by the things around you.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really that's scary. It's almost like your memory gets erased because your things aren't around you anymore. So
it's like going back in time and like keeping your parents from meeting, so you start fading away like Marty McFly did in Back to the Future.
Which is a whole strange, if you really look at that script, here's a son who falls in love with his mother and goes back in time to keep him. It's kind of weird.
Who came up with that? They were doing a lot of things back then. Who knows what they were doing? So, let's roll back a little bit. What made you decide to do this? Because it is a big decision, right? When you first started.
Yeah. So I've been a nomad, a full-time traveling nomad, which and my definition is someone which for me is I travel with my suitcase or my carry-on suitcases and a backpack. I don't have storage. I don't have a house. I don't have a car. I don't own anything except the things that
you're the extreme end.
Yeah. So the only things I own are I don't own a coffee cup. I don't own a wall.
Wow.
And
no walls. I love it.
Yes. Anyway, so my husband and I travel with my husband. So we actually on our first date, 15 years ago or something, not my first marriage, my first date with my second husband, we had this conversation about travel and loving to travel and so on. And I said, you know what, when I retire at that time, I didn't know what retirement was.
Right.
I was thinking about it, but I didn't have this plan.
The definition of retirement has really changed a lot.
Yeah. But anyway, it was, I really wanted to travel. So then fast forward 2 years before we launched, we really started talking about what full-time travel, what nomad life, what it was going to look like, where we were both retired. So retirement is one part of it. And then the nomad life is the second part, right?
So you both had full-time jobs at a company.
Yeah. So I was working in corporate America. So was he. We were both working in higher ed or educational software sales. I was in higher ed. He was in school. And
was your company soulless like most of them are, or did it actually have some merit?
Would corporate America be soulless?
No.
What's really funny about that? What's really funny about that is when I love my job. I love the people I work with. I love my company. I mean, I didn't quit working because I didn't like my job. I quit working because, other things were coming on in my life. But
sure, you were going towards instead of away.
Right, right. But what was really interesting was right up until I quit, I really thought that like I really didn't think there was life after my job. I really thought like
Really?
my job was really it, and what am I going to do? And my job loves me, and they're not going to be able to do anything without
Yeah.
me.
You
And how
tied
are
your
they going to
identity to your
replace
job,
me?
which
And
a lot of us do. Yeah.
yeah, and 24 hour later, they're like 24 hours later, they're like, Chris, who? Like.
You know what I used to say, I used to hear all the time? Somebody would say, you don't like your job? Well, there's busloads of people pulling up to take it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know what? I was completely replaceable, and I was
Yeah, we
completely
all
like, I
are, and
mean,
people forget that. I think people forget
yeah,
that.
yeah. We really get in this mindset of they can't live without me,
Hmm.
and the next day they have it. It's kind of sad because we have this American dream that you work. Well, the American dream's changing, but in my generation, the American dream was you work for this company for a really long time. I didn't have a pension, but a lot of my generation had a pension,
Yep.
and that was the role, that was the job, and then you never would think that when you left your company that they wouldn't miss you and like be calling you every day for
Oh yeah.
months to think,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah. To be fair, I
That
think
that
we
role
actually
doesn't
had,
exist.
there was kind of a switch. I think in like 2008, something
Yeah,
happened because there
yeah,
used
I
to
agree.
be employee loyalty. There used to
Mhm.
be companies used to be loyal to their employees and vice versa. And then
Yeah,
all of a sudden, I don't know if it was 2008 or was something, maybe it was the recession at the time. Something
yeah,
happened and that broke. I mean, the employees were still loyal to the company, but the company said, whatever, you're a cog, you can be replaced.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, not to be depressing.
Sorry. No, no, no. It all goes uphill from here. No, downhill. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But and so anyway, so fortunately for me, I had planned on retiring early my entire life.
Mm.
So my first job out of college, I worked for IBM. I was 22. The HR person came in and said, "Let me tell you about 401ks, investing, and double compounded interest and time and all these things." And I'm like,
And you're in your 20s and they're like, why
"Yeah,
why would I think
yeah."
about that now?
Well, no, but my thought was, wait a minute, you're going to give me money and you're going to match money that I put in, and
Oh
you're going
yeah,
to like all
that's a
like
no-brainer.
right. And so fortunately at 22, I made this decision to put 10 or 15%, whatever the numbers. I mean, your IRS, you can only put so much.
Very
Anyway,
smart.
yeah. And so because at 22, I made that plan, I was able to retire at 49. So at 49, I'm done. Like an
Wow.
opportunity came to my company and they're like,
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks.
Well
Thanks.
done.
Well done. But I mean, a company's like, we're going to reorganize. And I like raise my hand, I'm
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
and my financial planner, I call up my financial planner and I say, "Hey, I'm thinking about leaving." And she says, and she jokingly said to me, "Well, if you make $100 a month for the next 5 years, I'll be okay with you leaving, right?" And $100 a month is,
Low
and I'm thinking to
bar.
myself,
It's a very
yeah,
low bar.
I'm thinking to myself, I could walk a dog for $100 a month, like no big
Yeah.
deal. Anyway, but my husband though, he was not ready to retire. He had not
Mm.
hit his financial numbers yet, and my daughter was still in eighth grade. So I kind of had this 5 year. So we set out a 5 year plan for him to retire and to start nomad life. And so I had this 5 year gap of, what am I going to do with my life? And that's when I started the Eat, Walk, Learn and the blogging and, talking about the launch up to nomad life and
Nice.
all the changes you go through and the timelines and the emotional drama and how your family is going to take it and what to do with your dog and all these things that
Oh yeah,
happen as you
it's
get.
a huge amount of stuff. Actually, did it take you it totally took you 5 years to get it all planned out, right?
We It was really probably 2 years that we actually really were in the depth of it. I mean,
Mm.
our first thought was we were going to be expats, like we were going to move abroad and whatever.
Yeah, you
And then
still
when
had
we started,
kept your home and went
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so the first thought was, well, we'll move abroad. And then we thought, well, then we started understanding our criteria for where we wanted to go. We wanted to go to 72 degrees. We wanted to go to seaside towns. We wanted to go to places that spoke Spanish. And then we started looking at all the places around the world that fit that criteria. And then we were
Yeah.
like, well, why don't we just fly from one to the other? Why do we keep coming back to the US? What's the purpose to come back? And then when
That's
we
right.
realized there was no purpose to come back, then that's when the whole full-time travel nomad life
Wh-
formula kind of
where in the US
formulated.
did you live?
We lived in Denver, Colorado. Great,
Okay.
great town. Yeah.
Yeah, but you
Great
weren't
town.
getting 72 degrees all year round. That's for sure.
Oh no. This is really funny. I actually grew up in San Diego, so San Diego's pretty
So,
close to that 72
there you
degree.
go. Now you're
Yeah,
talking.
yeah. And when I graduated from college, and then anyway, long story short, I moved to Kansas City. I moved to Kansas City.
Wow, great barbecue.
And,
That's all I know
well,
about it.
yeah, in October, and it was in October. I don't remember what year it was, and a big ice storm came through during Halloween, and all Halloween was canceled because there was this whole sheet of ice all over the
Wow.
city.
It's a
And I moved
sign
there from
from
California.
it's a sign from nature saying, okay, maybe you shouldn't be living here.
Moved there from San Diego or from California, and I'm thinking, what do you mean we can't do something because of weather? Like, you're not. What is this language
I
you're
know
speaking to
that's
me?
it's living in California. It's like that you don't even think about the weather. Like
Yeah.
it's complete. It's not even a topic of conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I didn't last in Kansas for very long. I moved to Florida shortly after that. But anyway, I left from Denver. Denver is a great city. The weather actually in Denver is pretty awesome. It's a
Mm,
nice four-season city, and everything's pretty mild, except for the occasional storm that shows up on the news, and everybody goes, "Oh my God, Denver's so snowy," and
yeah.
it's really not. But it's a great place. From Denver is a great place to go skiing, but the skiing is not in Denver.
So you were
So.
all, you had you always wanted to travel from even before that, or like did you always have the travel bug in your
Oh my
mind?
God. I am a third generation, at least Wanderluster for
Mm,
sure.
mm.
My God love my grandmother, my mom's mom. She was from West Virginia, and she never left the U.S. Not for whatever reason, she never left the U.S., but she always had a suitcase packed. I mean, if you call my grandmother up and said, "Hey, come out and see us in June," she would pack in January. She'd be
Wow.
like, have her, ready to
And my
go.
mom used to do that too.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, I'm at least a third generation Wanderluster, and I've traveled my whole life. I mean, when I think I had 50 states done by 20 something, and probably 20 countries by 25, something like that.
Wow.
And then
Fantastic.
yeah, I've done all 50 states twice, and then I don't know, I'm not a country counter, but people ask me this, like I'm up to 82 countries or
Wow.
something
You're only
like that.
about
Yeah.
halfway through.
Yeah, it's the
That's
rest of them
still
that are really
pretty
hard.
that's
I've
still
done all the
pretty
easy ones.
it's still pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. That's fantastic. But you're not
Yeah.
actually you're not going because you just want to, count it off your list. You're going because you want to experience it.
Yeah, well, I do have to say that if I do get like we were in Hong Kong, and Macau was just across the bay,
Yeah.
and we could go to Macau and come back for the day, so and get a country. So like I'm not immune to country counting, but I'm not in the game to count countries.
Yeah, exactly right. So I
Yeah.
guess the answer to how you fund all your travels is easy. You pre-funded yourself already. Like you're already at the point
Yeah.
where you're independent and you don't really
Yeah.
need to like what you're doing now is the $100 a month gravy plus.
Yeah, I mean, my husband and I, we make a little money on YouTube, and I make a little money on books and things, but it's not money that funds my lifestyle in any
Right,
way. It might buy me a beer in Dublin. That's like it,
right,
I mean, it's not necessary money for whether I make that money or not does not determine whether or not I live a nomad lifestyle.
right. So you've been to a lot of countries. You've done a lot of things. Where would you say somebody should start? Like what
You
countries
know,
would
that
you think would really be the
that is
most
such a
open to?
I'm sorry. That is such a great question, and I actually, well, I don't know if I can promote my book here, but
Do
I have
it.
a book called, oh, thanks.
Links
Two
will be in the
carry-ons.
show notes. Trust me.
Okay, good. So two carry-ons and a plan, audio, ebook, and print. You can get it on Amazon. But one of the things I highly recommend in there, and I don't really think I have seen this as a recommendation tip from anybody else talking to people about launching their nomad lives. And my number one tip, I don't know if it's number one, but a tip that I always recommend is start in a country and a language that you speak.
Mm,
So if you're a first language English speaker, start in an English speaking country. First language Spanish speakers, because And a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm well traveled. I've traveled to all these countries. I'm not worried about language. I'm not worried about using Google Translate. I'm not
Hmm.
like I know how to travel. I know how to manage myself in, another language." Nomad life is such a different beast to a vacation
Yes.
that there are so many stressors that you can never anticipate or understand prior to launching a nomad life, that throwing on another language on top of all those stressors when you first start just makes it so much more difficult than it needs to be. So start off in an English speaking, if you're an English speaker, start off in an English speaking country first. Figure out how your nomad life works, and then go into your other languages.
Yeah,
That's
that's a really, really good tip because I think you're right. I think you don't want to pile too many things on at once because that's what ends up happening for some people. They just go somewhere which is completely foreign. They don't know the language. They don't know anything. And you think, oh, this is great, but there's a lot of challenges. So just take one challenge at a time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think like in nomad life, when you're on vacation, for example, I don't. A lot people vacation in so many different ways, but they've got 2 weeks or 1 week to do everything, and then they got to get back to work, right?
Yep.
And so they might be driven by other priorities because you're on vacation than if you're on nomad life. So, for example, like you land in Paris and you want to go do 37 things, and so you
Get my
might
things done within my two
right.
weeks.
Right.
Fit them in.
Eiffel Tower, Champs-Élysées, all the things you have to do, right? And so you maybe this is just an example. You're going to grab cabs everywhere, Ubers everywhere, because you have a short amount of time and you want to do a lot of things. And so
Yeah, and
transportation is
it costs a lot.
right. And transportation is one of those things that if you can make it quicker and faster on a vacation, you might spend the money to do that, right?
Exactly.
So you hit the ground running in Paris. You spend €100 on taxis, but you get to see all these things. Well, in nomad life, you got time. You
Mm.
got lots and lots and lots and lots of time. So you might, rather than grab taxis, because with taxis you really don't have to think. You just tell the guy, Eiffel Tower, and off you go. Hopefully, if you got an honest taxi driver, they don't exist. Anyway,
Ubers. I
um,
use Ubers.
yeah. Well, Uber. Yeah, I say taxi as a as
Yeah, of
a
course.
as a Kleenex, right?
Yeah.
But Uber's definitely, taxis, no. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is as a nomad, you have time. So you might use that time to try to figure out the metro or the bus schedule. And then you might actually really go get Euro and you use the ATM machine to get cash and actually understand currencies. Where on a vacation, you're probably just swiping your credit card and not thinking about those things.
Yeah.
And so in nomad life, because you're taking on a different way of doing your life that's not vacation, there's a lot of stressors in that. You've got to learn the language. You got to understand how this metro works. You've got to understand the currencies. All these things are extra stressors. You add language on top of that, and then it's just, that much more painful
Right.
at,
Right.
at the start.
Because you're basically trying to live live life like a local, as opposed
Exactly.
to a tourist. You're not a tourist. You're supposed
Right.
to. It's like you're actually living there. Yeah, and that's what it
Right.
has to feel like. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And locals generally are not running around in taxis going to the Eiffel Tower or the Champs-Élysées. I mean, they're just going to go, they just want a baguette, and some hunk of cheese.
That's right. I don't want another French onion soup. Every cafe sells in the same
Chicken
place.
soup, even a thing in France.
It is, and
French
it's
onion soup
everywhere.
and French
And I
fries.
remember last time we were in Paris last year, and I just thought it was hilarious that everywhere we went, that's exactly had a French onion soup and a beef bourguignon on the menu. And and I asked my nephew who lives there. I said, how can people determine which cafe to go to when every cafe has the exact same
Yeah.
dishes? And he
Yeah.
goes, oh, it's not like that outside of the tourist areas. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Right.
that
You know,
explains it.
to that point, Americans are a lot of Americans. Actually, I found it here in Ireland too. A lot of people are really into Greek yogurt.
Mm,
Okay, everybody wants Greek yogurt because it's got a higher protein count, and then the grocery stores pay the charge like 6 times more for Greek yogurt than
of
regular
course.
yogurt. Anyway, so I was in Greece this summer. I was on the island of Poros, and I was talking to a local Greek person, and I was telling the local about how Americans love Greek yogurt. And they're like, what what is Greek yogurt? Like Greek yogurt it's just yogurt. At the store, and all
I
I have
know.
is yogurt. There's nothing that
I,
says Greek on it.
yeah, yeah. It's funny how Greeks. I'm originally Greek, and I speak Greek. I've been
That's
to
right.
Greece a lot, and it's funny how Greeks like they don't understand how what a big deal Greek yogurt is outside of Greece. It's like
Yeah,
the most massive deal, but in Greece, it's like whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. True.
So what drives you to go from place to place? Like you said, you're in Dublin right now, and how long
hmm
are you going to be in Dublin for?
Well, so I'll answer your first question and then I'll kind of segue into the second question.
Okay.
So our manifesto, I kind of call it our travel manifesto. We chase 72 degrees.
Hmm.
So, 20 for all the Celsius people out there, 20, 22 degrees. We try to stay in that sweet spot. We don't like it too hot, don't like it too cold. Our carry-on bags are packed for 22 degrees,
So you
72
have a nice
degrees.
narrow band on the
Yeah.
planet that you stay in within.
We
Gotcha.
try. I mean, we screw up, but we try. Sometimes, like we just want to go somewhere because we're nearby, and it just makes sense to go while we're there, and the weather may not be the relevant factor.
Sure.
But anyway, so generally, we're in the North American summers, we're in the Southern Hemisphere, and the North American winters, we're in the North American winters were in the Southern Hemisphere, and the North American summers were in the Northern Hemisphere
Okay.
generally, right? So that, in January we're in South America, in June we're in North America.
Right.
Let's kind of follow, and then we use repositioning cruises to go from continent to continent, and the repositioning cruises usually move in April and October, generally
Reposition. I've
speaking.
never heard of that. What is that?
Yeah,
Repositioning
so
cruise.
so twice a year the cruise industry moves its fleet from one market to another market. So the Mediterranean boats move to the Caribbean, and the Mexican boats move to the Alaska market, and so on. And those are generally in April and October because the cruise boats are following the good weather as well.
Hmm.
So when they move, the cruise industry sells one-way tickets on those boats to get so you can go from like London to Cape Canaveral in Florida.
Wow, I have never heard
Yeah,
of that. That is so cool. Is that
and
like a
and
hidden secret?
it is a hidden secret because these cruises are usually around 15 or 16 days,
Hmm.
and they even and there's LA to Australia and back, and same all over the world. These markets are moving, and if you think about, for example, a ticket in the summertime, a ticket from North America to Europe is usually $700 or $800.
Yeah.
Lots of variables that you could put in there, right? But a repositioning cruise, which is 15 days of hotel, 15 days of food, 15 days of entertainment, and your transportation is usually around $500 or $600.
But it's totally worth
So
it.
yeah,
That's
so yeah,
amazing.
so we try to catch those repositioning cruises twice a year to get us from continent to continent. So that's our general travel manifesto of how we chase 72 degrees, how we get around the world, and so on.
Oh, nice.
Particular year, things are a little screwed up. We got a daughter, we got kids graduating, and we need to be in different places at particular times for graduations and so on. So,
Family. What are you gonna do?
yeah, damn family. These kids have to get smart and graduate. Anyway, so that's why we're in Dublin, is we're chasing some graduation dates and things. And my daughter went to school here in Dublin, so that's over here. And frankly, Dublin in August is actually perfect weather, 72 degrees, perfect. Ireland is great in August,
Nice.
but it's a very short window. If you're here in July, you're cold. If you're here in September,
Yeah.
you're cold. But August is usually right in that sweet spot.
And that's what drives you to the next destination. Like you just wait. You just like, okay, here's the 72 degrees for, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month or whatever. And then you
Yeah.
go, okay, now we need to go to the next destination to find that.
We're usually planned about 6 months out in relation to those repositioning cruises. So
Right.
we're planned to October, we're planned to April, and in that time period, we're hitting the regions of that weather.
Mm.
So this year actually is pretty close. I mean, we're in Dublin right now, and we'll be here then. A couple of weeks we're headed to the States. We have some things to do in the States. Of course, we'll hit the cooler weather in the States, up in New England and the Seattle area. Maybe a little bit warmer than 72 degrees, but generally, the cooler parts of the North American summer.
Right.
We do have to pop into Austin and for just a couple days in September.
Oh, I love Austin. September's not
I'm
bad.
sorry.
It
I
could
love
be
Austin
worse.
too. I love Austin too, and I wish it were Austin. Houston. We got to go to Houston.
Oh,
for,
okay. Yeah,
yeah.
never mind then. Houston
Anyway,
in September. Is that
yeah.
hot? Is it hot?
God, anyway, we have to do that. But then we'll be in New England and the Finger Lakes in September, and then we coming back to Dublin for in October, which is not what we would normally do, but that's a graduation. There's graduations in October, and normally we would head down to South America, but this year because of this family stuff, we're going to stay in Europe for the winter.
And then
So
if you miss the cruise, you just fly down.
yeah,
You just fly down.
yeah, we're actually, it's funny, in the 4.5 years that we've been traveling, when we first left the States, we flew actually from Newark to Dublin. And then that's the last transatlantic flight. That's the only transatlantic flight we've taken in 4.5 years. Everything else across the oceans has been by cruises.
Mm,
This year, we're going to be doing the transatlantic flights twice because of this timing with the graduation.
right.
But then starting next April, we'll be back on the schedule of catching those cruises and so
That's
on.
good.
So
this is
yeah.
all a deviation from the plan, basically.
Our current 6 month is a deviation from our normal plan. But that's the beauty of nomad life. You can, see, this is also the beauty and the crux of nomad life. You can do anything at any time. There's no rules.
Yeah.
There's no
For some people, that is awesome, and for other people, it's like, oh my God, you're freaking me out.
The problem is when you make a decision to do one thing, you can't do the other thing.
Yes,
You know,
exactly
so I
right.
decided I'm going to be in Dublin in August. Therefore, I can't be in Norway in August.
That's right.
Dang.
Oh, you can be in Norway next August.
Exactly. There, you got it. You got it.
So let's go back to a bit to what you were talking about earlier when you were talking about sort of divesting everything. I mean, how did you deal with that? Because I think that's another big hurdle that people have, is that, does that mean I'm going to have to get rid of everything? And of course, you don't necessarily need to, depending on how you want to nomad. But tell me about that. Tell us about that bit.
So after we did a lot of my husband and I did a lot of discussing and number crunching and spreadsheets and all this on whether or not we should keep the house or not.
Right.
And it's an emotional decision, and it's also a financial decision. So financially, what we figured out was it did not matter whether we kept the house and rented it out, or we kept the house, we put the money in the market or whatever. The numbers were basically the same.
Yeah, but you never know.
Right.
Tesla and Nvidia, all these stocks could be going through the roof. It'd be good. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, and everybody's got to look at their own spreadsheet. But for us, what we determined was it was a non-issue. Like, it did not matter financially which decision we made on the house.
Right.
And I'm not here to argue with people about that. That's the decision we made. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally, it was a real challenge. Like, why do you have a house? Well, you have a house to put your stuff in it. Well, if you don't have stuff, then you don't need a house.
Yes.
And then what is the other reason to have a house? And
what
then
comes first, the house or the stuff, right?
Right. And then, it's in the house, for a lot of people, there's either the matriarch or the patriarch house where all the holidays are, the Thanksgivings and the Christmases and, and so on. And so if you get rid of a house, then how do you then recreate, especially if you're the matriarch or the patriarch of the family housing thing, like how do you recreate those if you don't have a house, right? So that's the emotional side of getting rid of the house. Anyway, we decided that it was okay to get rid of the house. Like it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy conversation, but we actually, the funny thing is we had been on a cruise, and prior to going on Nomad Life, this is part of the decision making. And on this is what, 6 or 7 years ago, before eSIMs were really popular, and a lot of people, when they left the country, they would turn their phone on airplane mode, and they would get into the US and they'd turn their phone on, and then it explodes with all these messages and things that they've missed while they've been.
It was a lot more difficult back then.
Yeah. So anyway, so this one, I do not remember where we were, but this scenario was happening, and we get into this diner or coffee house, and this lady next to me, she was on the cruise. I think we were Alaska. It doesn't matter. She turns on her phone, and it just explodes. It's all these messages, and she starts freaking out. And what she is seeing in the messages is her water main had busted in her house.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh my
And her
God.
entire house had flooded. And even though she had a property manager maintaining the property and so on, the property managers can only do so much. Even if you give them a blank check to fix things, there's always going to be a scenario they have to call you and say, the house, flooded and there's all these things and you need to sign whatever, right?
Yeah. I see
So
it.
she's going through all these messages and she's freaking out because her phone's been off for 6 days. People have been trying to get a hold of her. No one can find the main. The whole house is flooding. They had to call the fire department. The drama.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only that,
And-
the costs are probably astronomical too to fix it. Yeah.
Right. And so I turn to my husband and I say, that's why we're selling the house. Like, I don't want that phone call. Like, no matter how good your property manager is, I don't want to be sitting, I don't want to be in Thailand having a beautiful day snorkeling, coming back to have a tequila sunrise on the beach, watching the sunset, and then my phone explodes from the property manager with this problem.
Yep.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
There was I had to see that happen to somebody else for me to understand that I didn't want it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so when we decided to get rid of the house, then we decided to get rid of the stuff, and we went through should we get a storage unit and so on. And both my husband and I we had major moves in the past, and we'd had storage units in the past, and we had both had this scenario where we had put stuff in storage, and 3 years later we come back to storage, and we're like, "What the hell's all this stuff? Like, why is this in storage? Why did I just?"
I feel the same whenever I walk into my garage.
Yeah, right. Why did I spend $200 a month times X to put this crap in storage? I've now spent $3,000. Is this stuff even worth $3,000?
Yeah.
Like, these are the conversations, right? But the experience that I had with storage units previously wasn't the financial, although that is relevant, was when you put stuff in storage and then you go away and you come back a period of time later, you are not the same person as you were when you put the stuff in storage.
Exactly. You're not the same person yet that we were yesterday.
Right.
Tomorrow you'll be a different person as well.
Right. And then when you start looking at your stuff and you're like, I can't believe I like this, or look at these pair of pants. They don't even fit anymore. It's like, then it's just this whole cockamamie, whole mental game of thinking, like, so as we're getting ready to launch, and I'm thinking, all right, let's think about this. 5 years from now, and let's say we find a house that we want to live in someplace, and maybe it's back in Denver, or maybe it's in Seoul, Korea. Like, who knows where it's going to be?
Yeah.
First of all, I got to ship all this stuff someplace, and then am I even going to want it? And then if I keep this stuff, there's not room for the other stuff that I might find as I'm traveling around the world that I might like better.
Right.
5 years from now. And so that ended up, so that's when we decided to get rid of everything. So, a lot of people, I feel so sorry for people. Here's two truths about getting rid of your stuff. Number one is your stuff is not worth what you think it is.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And number two, nobody wants your stuff.
That's right. Especially your kids.
Especially your kids. So, and then here's the third truth is, if you put it on Facebook Marketplace, maybe 2% of the people who are actually interested in your stuff will actually show up for your stuff. Yeah. You will spend half of your time, if not all of your time, chasing down people who said, 5 o'clock comes. Well, where are you? Well, my car broke down. I'll be there at 6. I'm sorry. My wife doesn't want, don't waste your time with Facebook Marketplace unless you genuinely have something that will really sell. I don't even know what people want on Facebook. I'm not an expert on Facebook Marketplace, but maybe, I don't know, maybe telescopes sell on Facebook Marketplace. Then sell one there. But don't sell your dishes, your clothes, your couches. Just, if you really feel like your stuff is worth something, have a garage sale. Sell it. Okay. What we did was we had a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house.
Wow, that's a big house.
Yeah, of stuff. And so we had an estate sale, and the estate sale people said, "Don't get rid of anything. I mean, the half bottle of Windex, we can sell it. Like, don't get rid of anything." So our kids came through. They grabbed all the pretty stuff and the heirloom stuff or whatever, which was actually they did not take most of what we thought they would take.
Mm.
Grandma's china didn't want it. Grandma's silver didn't want it. The
Yep.
artwork didn't want it. Anyway, so we had the estate sale. It was over 3 days or something. We actually, it's like I can't watch this happen. We had to leave town because I couldn't watch it. It was just too emotional to watch my stuff get away.
Yeah,
So we
it's
came
funny
back.
how attached we get to things like that. I mean, I
Yeah,
always do that. I look around, I think to myself, why do I still have that? But then you'd miss it if it was gone.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, it was hard. I mean, it was hard. It was hard, but it was also very freeing,
Mm.
very, very freeing. So anyway, so we had about, I don't know, let's say we had 20% left of the house, after the estate sale, the broken chair and the mismatched pantsuit and
That's pretty good. So you got rid of 80% of your stuff in those 3 days. That's excellent.
I would say, yeah, probably about that. So then what I did go to Facebook Marketplace and I said, so the estate sale was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Monday was a lot of neighborhoods, their garbage has like a big pickup day. Like
Oh,
put
yeah,
anything you
Yeah,
want
we have
on,
some
right?
neighborhoods
So,
around here that do that too. Yeah.
yeah, so we planned backwards from that. So we figured whatever's left, we'll put it out on the street on Monday for the big garbage pickup so we don't get charged premiums for picking up the couch or the mattress or whatever. So Sunday, I put out on Facebook Marketplace at 12 noon, everything in the house is free. Come and get it. And I said, priority given to people experiencing homelessness, teachers, and nonprofit organizations. I didn't know what the hell they'd want, but I was like, you know what? If a teacher wants my 7 colored pencils, she can have them.
Yeah.
If I've got a tent with a hole in it and a person experiencing homelessness wants it, have at it.
Absolutely.
Right? So anyway, so 12 o'clock. So I put on Facebook Marketplace 12 o'clock from 12 to 4. Everything's free. And I get all these messages. Is this real? Is this real? I'm like, yeah, it's real. Anyway, 11 o'clock.
We're leaving the country.
Yes. 11 o'clock. There's a line like a mile long out my door.
Wow, that's awesome.
People wanting to come in. And I thought, Jesus, this is better than going to, I thought I could load it all up and go to Goodwill, or Goodwill could come to me.
This is way better.
Yeah. So anyway, so we opened the door and my house was basement and 2 stories. So each one of it, there's 3, but my husband, my daughter, and I, we each took a floor, and we allowed 10 people in at a time because it was crowd management, And so I said, okay, teachers, come on. And so they came in, everybody, and we had bags. I mean, it was amazing. In an hour, everything was gone.
Nice.
We had 1 bag of trash, not even, like a bathroom sized bag of trash at the end of the day. And that's what we put out on the corner on Monday.
That's fantastic.
That was it. And everything was gone.
Wow.
Everything. Yeah.
And you felt at that moment, you felt relief or sadness, or what did you feel?
There was this restaurant called Cuba across the street from our house. Had great Cuban sandwiches and great black beans and rice.
I love Cuban sandwiches. Oh, those are good.
I'm a vegan, so I don't like Cuban sandwiches, but the black beans and rice, yum, yum, yum.
Mm.
Anyway, Steve and I, we go across the street to the Cuba after like at 2 o'clock or something. We're drinking mojito. We're not even drinkers. We're having this celebration. It was so freeing. I felt like 1,000 pounds had been lifted off of us.
Wow.
I didn't miss a single thing. And even we're 5 years into this, there is nothing that I miss. Not a single thing. I think about things and I'll look at pictures and I'll go, oh yeah, I like that. That was fun. I remember that or whatever. But it's not regret. It's not homesickness. It's not missing. It's memories for sure. Right. But it's not doubt or regret. It is absolute freedom. Absolute freedom.
But between then and now, I mean, you've experienced so much more and you've seen so much more. It totally makes up for all of that loss that you felt.
Yeah. But truthfully though, so, I had this 5 years waiting for my daughter and my husband to retire and graduate. And I did some things. And then, at 3 years in, we make the 2-year plan and then we leave. And so the 2 years to when we leave, it's busy and my daughter's graduating high school and dad and Steve's retiring and we're planning the nomad life, and we're getting rid of stuff, and we're making plant, blah, blah, blah. So then we launch, and about 8 months after the launch, we launched in May, and this was, I think, February or March. Steve and I decided we're going to take separate vacations. He's going to take a couple weeks, and he's going to go get his a scuba certificate. He's 60 whatever, and he decides he wants to learn how to scuba.
Wow.
So yeah. So he goes to Borneo. I
want to learn how to skateboard, and I'm 60 something.
So he goes to Borneo because Jacques Cousteau had said this place in Borneo was the best place in the world.
Of course, Borneo. Scuba. Where else would he go, right?
Why not? We're in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Sure,
why not
it's close. It's close.
Yeah. So he goes over to Borneo, and I go to a meditation yoga retreat and just outside of Chiang Mai in Thailand. So we're off.
Nice.
I think there were 10 days or a week or something. We go off. I get to this meditation retreat. Okay. And it feels like one of those eat, pray, love moments, right? So there's all these, I'm there, and I'm 58 now, so it's probably 55 or something. Anyway, I'm there, and there's all these, they're mostly early 30 somethings. There's a couple 20s and a couple older. I'm not the oldest person there, but I'd say the average was probably 30, I would say, something like that. And the singles and couples. And there's all these people, they're all finding themselves. Okay. They're all, why are you here?
That's exactly why they're there.
Yeah. I just lost my job, or I'm in between spouses, or, I just empty nest. There's all these like finding themselves sort of vibe going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing here? Like,
you've already found yourself.
I have found myself, and I'm really happy with myself. Like, fine,
so you could set yourself up as a tutor for all these people. This is how you can find yourself.
Oh, that's something I've learned, though. These millennials and these Gen Z or X's, or I guess I'm Gen. I don't know. I'm 66, so I'm Gen Z. Is that? I don't whatever the next generation is. Anyway, they don't want to hear advice. Like this is
what do we know, right? Yeah, what do we know?
We can give it if we're asked, but we're not allowed to give it unless we're asked.
That's right.
Yeah, anyway, so I'm sitting at this retreat, and there's all these millennials, and what's the generation after millennial? Anyway, they're all boohooing, and
Gen Z's after millennial. Right?
Yeah. Anyway, they're all boohooing and finding themselves, and I have this job. I think I want to do that job, and I'm thinking, oh my, this is going to be a long week. but the schedule at the retreat was at 5:30. They gonged us awake, and it was silent time through breakfast, and then there was a yoga meditation at 9, and at 10 o'clock, they had what they called the weather report. And at the weather report, it was optional. Everybody gathered around, and at 10 o'clock is when you could speak again from the previous night. So quiet time was from 10 to 10. So you could speak, and at that time, people would say, oh, I'm happy today, or I'm sad today, or this is what I'm thinking about, or whatever, right? And this is when the finding yourself monologues and dialogues would come up, was doing the weather report. Mm-hmm. So the first 3 days, I go through the weather report, and I'm like, oh, Jesus. So in the fourth day, they come around to me, and I really haven't said much up to this point. I mean, I said a little bit about who I am. I haven't been distant, but I'm kind of, let you guys be you. I'm not you. I'm just going to go whatever.
Right.
So they come to me, and I'm about to just say my happy whatever, and all of a sudden I start bawling. I mean, I can't even put a sentence together. I'm like, I don't know. Julia Childs is just, it's not pretty. It's like, here, buckets and buckets and buckets. And I'm not a pretty crier. I got snot coming out of my nose and tears. And I mean, it's just a mess. And I'm like, what the hell?
Where did that come from?
What the hell is this? And so the next 3 weather reports, I figure out that I'm grieving. It's a ton of grief. It's the grief. It's not that I'm super happy, but I'm grieving, and I'm grieving the loss of the house, the loss of the stuff, the loss of the identity, the empty nesting, the loss of my kid's child, all of it. Total grief.
Right. And so you suppressed it all that time? You basically you didn't feel it?
yeah, we're busy and, things are exciting and we're thinking about the next destination and we're
Yeah.
learning, how to eat pad thai and whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And so there's all this chaos and activity and excitement and energy. And now I'm sitting still in this meditation retreat. There's no phones, there's no, it's a digital detox location. And I'm like, holy, and then so for 3 days I cried and just
Wow.
grieved and grieved and grieved. So more advice for all those people who have not asked me for my advice. But plant, you're going to grieve. There's going to be, or I did. There's going to be some grieving time because even though happy as can be, no regrets, love my life, I just had to honor that there was a life that I also loved, but is no longer my life. And I just
Yeah.
had to just let that grief happen.
Yeah, and don't wait for it to pile up. Let it
Yeah.
out. Let it out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
want to switch to a couple other topics because we don't have much time left, but just
Oh,
want
I'm
to see if we
sorry.
can squeeze. It's okay. We can do this again if you're amenable. I
Awesome.
mean, it'd be great.
Awesome.
So the other thing that people over 50 are worried about is healthcare, like
Yeah.
when I'm traveling. So what
Yeah.
do you guys do?
You only left me 10 minutes to talk about healthcare.
No, no. We can talk for 10 minutes and then we'll do another show for the rest of it. I mean, is it super complicated or do you just get
No,
a plan or what do you do?
well, yeah. So I will try to be as brief as possible. Every year, we have made a change in our health and medical care
Hmm.
because our situations and environments have changed. And next year, we'll have to do it again because I can guarantee you the ACA that I have now is going to go away in January. The big, beautiful bill ain't.
Mm.
So that's going to hit me, I'm sure. So the first year, so we launched in the summer. So we had my husband's medical care for like a month, and then we went on Cobra for a couple months. And then in November of that year, we couldn't get on ACA the first year because our income was still the previous year, and so our numbers were too high in order to get subsidized ACA.
Yep.
So the first year we did IMG Global, and we
Mhm.
paid about $250 a month, I think, for
That's
the
pretty
first year for
reasonable.
both of us.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
but
reasonable.
the deductible was like 10 grand, I think. The
Oof.
deductible was 10 grand. I mean, so it
Hope
was
nothing
basically,
happens. Cross your fingers.
yeah, it was basically a catastrophic plan. But we did a lot of medical care during that year out of pocket that was completely affordable. I got orthoscopic surgery on my knee and stem cell replacement, which cost 10 grand. And so I paid for that out of pocket
In the
Malaysia.
States or some other country?
In Malaysia,
Mm.
in Kuala Lumpur, which I have lots of videos about that if anybody wants to watch that on our YouTube channel. The second year, we qualified for ACA because our income was finally reduced, right? And so we were on ACA for, and ACA only covers us in the US, and then it does have a catastrophic, if you're out of the country catastrophically, it will cover you if you get
Oh,
pre-approved for it.
so it does.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Well, it
good.
depends on your plan. Not all
Right.
plan. Your ACA is administered by your county, so depending on which county you're in, you may or may not have that. We've actually found a plan that did that. We haven't had to use it, although I have a friend who has the same plan, and she has used it and has been successful on catastrophic needs internationally. But it still has a high deductible. It's like 10 grand or 20. It's ridiculous.
Well, I think that's what a
Anyway.
lot of people do. I mean, from who I
Yeah.
talk to, it's like they worry about the catastrophic, but then
Yeah.
when it comes to everything else, the cost of healthcare outside of the country is so inexpensive that they just pay for
Yeah.
it out of pocket.
Yeah. So then the current right now, this year, so my husband aged into Medicare, so he's now on Medicare. I'm still on ACA for the US, but I did pick up Ginkgo, which I love Ginkgo. I love them. They're 120 euros, about 135 or something a month. And it's complete medical care with a 50 euro copay on every visit. So, and I've filed many claims with them
And that's global?
yeah, it's global.
Wow.
And it covers you in the US. It covers you in your home country for a couple weeks. I can't remember exactly
But
what
you
it
don't
is.
have a home country anymore.
Well, my home country, according to Ginkgo, is I'm domiciled in Texas. So
Right.
they think of my home country as the USA. So, so if I go to the US, I can either use Obamacare, which is ridiculous. It's it's not, it only covers me in Texas if I get hurt, anyway.
Yeah, I've
It's
had
not,
that experience with
yeah,
that as well. Totally.
yeah. But so the short answer is I have ACA in the US and Ginkgo worldwide. Now, next year, that's going to change, and I need to figure out what that solution is going to be because I still want to have coverage in the US. I mean, the reason why I take ACA is because I have no out-of-pocket cost, and I still want coverage in the US, even though I'm only in the US maybe a couple of weeks a year. At
Right.
least it covers those couple of weeks. And then if I have something catastrophic that I want to have my medical care back in the US, I guess there's a mechanism I could use to get back to the US in order to get covered for that catastrophic care.
Right. Right. So that's probably the best way to go about it is to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is what you've just
Well,
said. And do you have to look at it? You have to look at it every year because everything changes, or do you have to look at it
yeah.
every year because okay?
Yeah. For two reasons. We look at how much time we're going to be in the US. And I mean, if we're not going to be in the US at all, maybe, well, see, I mean, with ACA, you have to make the decision in November for what you want for the next year. So if you don't know what you're doing the next year, and because it doesn't cost us anything, that's why we get it. If it
Right.
cost us something, we probably wouldn't get it. And with the changes that the big, beautiful, I don't want to call it the big, beautiful bill,
That last bill.
the spending bill.
You can take the word
I-
beautiful out of it if you want. Just
You
the
know,
big
I don't know how
bill.
political your podcast is, so I'll stay away
No
from that,
politics,
but
please.
yeah. Anyway, the point is, I imagine that I will not have access. I will have access to ACA, but will probably cost me a lot of money to use it, and then it's not worth it to me.
Right.
So I'm not going to open up a whole can of worms of what our plans are for next year because it has to do with Greece. And
Oh, that's good to
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I might meet you there. Actually, I go to Greece every year, so
Excellent. Yeah, so we'll be in Greece in November working on Part B of the medical insurance plan with some options maybe that we might figure out how to do that in Greece.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to have another show to talk about where you ended up with that. We have too much to talk about. We can't just do this in an hour. It's impossible. It's completely impossible.
Well, I'm just impressed that you've got 1,000 people you're going to talk to because all of us have stories like this, and you've got an audience that I hopefully will love them. These stories.
I hope so too. So I know we have to wrap up, but what would your advice be to an aspiring digital nomad who's thinking about doing it? They're over 50, maybe they're not happy where they are, or they've had some life changes. Maybe they're like people who are at that retreat. It's like, I'm thinking about getting into this, but I'm worried about it. I'm scared about it. What would be your advice?
Do the first step. And the first step is pick a date on the calendar and circle it. Everything else will fall into place once you pick the date. And if you don't even know what the date is, if you have no even understanding of what that date might be, go to Hallmark, buy a calendar, open it up and point, or pick your birthday or pick your kid's birthday or your dog's birthday or Valentine's. Just pick a day.
How did you
Doesn't
pick a
matter
day?
which one.
How did you pick a day? How did you pick it?
My daughter graduated May 15th and we left June 1st. I'm like, that's as soon as we can get out of here. So it's based on her graduation. I was like, give her 2 weeks to get home and pack her stuff and we're out of here. So
yeah. So
yeah,
how did your kids take the fact that my parents are becoming nomads? That must have been interesting.
Yeah, the
conversation.
older ones, they're good with it. The college age one, she struggled with it a little bit because she's kind of like, well, where do I go for Christmas and where do I go for vacation and where do I go for summer? Kind of those not knowing where to go stuff was a little stressful for her. But as those things came up, we worked them through. And I said, is it really that bad that you have to be sitting on a Mexican beach for New Year's drinking margaritas rather than sitting in Denver by a fireplace on a Christmas tree? Like, yeah, is it really that awful? So, yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So pick a date and stick to it. And what was your biggest fear that you had of going into this?
My biggest fear. I really didn't have any. My husband actually had the fear of, he thought he would have communication problems and having a social network of people,
right?
And not being lonely and isolated. That is the least of our problems. We have more friends now and more connections now around the world, virtually and in person, than we've ever had. Our social life now is the best it's ever been in our entire life.
Mm.
You know, we meet people, we engage with people. We probably meet them first on social media. I mean, love it or hate it, Facebook is, or Substack or wherever. You may not be a huge fan of social media, but it returns what you put into it is returned to you 100-fold.
Mm.
And that's the key to finding your friends and building your network and not being lonely and isolated as you travel.
Yeah, there's so much more I want to ask you, like how you find places to go, like where you live, like where you stay, stuff like that. But we're running out of time. We're gonna have to do this again.
Yes, I would, no problem. I would love it.
So if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way? Like, give me some links
Yeah,
and places
yeah.
for people to go.
So my handle everywhere is eat, walk, learn. So like I eat
Oh,
food,
nice
I
riff.
walk on the
Nice
street.
riff.
Yeah. Yeah. I learn in the books. A lot of people say it sounds like Star Wars, Ewok, but no, it's eat, walk.
Can you believe
Anyway,
that in 2 years Star Wars will be 50? That drives that makes me insane. Makes me think, oh my God, I'm so old.
Yeah. Ugh, thanks for the reminder. I remember going. Anyway,
Me too.
so
I went and
Ewok
saw it.
Learn.
I saw it 5 times. Believe it or not.
So Eat, Walk, Learn on Facebook. We have a Facebook group, Nomad Life, Eat, Walk, Learn. I'm on Substack at Eat, Walk, Learn. All the handles, anywhere, any place you are, I probably am. I'm more active on Facebook and Substack than anywhere else, but you can find me everywhere. And my email is eatwalklearn@gmail.com. I also have a website, eatwalklearn.com, where you can purchase any of my 3 books on Nomad Life. You can read all of my articles on Nomad Life, all my tips and tricks on traveling around the world, hiking around the world, and eating vegan around the world.
Fantastic. Well, everything is going to go in the show notes so people can go directly to you. And we definitely have to do this again because it was so much fun.
Right.
And I have so many more questions to ask you.
Awesome.
So
love it.
If you're up for it, we'll do it again.
Thanks, Chris. I would love
Thank you
that.
so much. And enjoy
Bye.
Dublin. Enjoy the rest of your time.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Ciao.
Bye.
Oh, I'm living that nomad life, city to city, feeling alive. From mountain tops to ocean drives, unchained, I thrive, I thrive. Oh, I thrive, I thrive.